I was just reading up on Hannah, looking at
Mm.
and all of that, so we can have some good
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah, I think what was powerful about what you said last time, because in my mind, I've always thought about her husband, Elkanah, or however you say his name. Like he was being selfish, or like, am I not that important to you? And I really love how you drop in. No, that's actually, it's a little bit deeper than that. He was trying to fill a need for her. He was
He
doing the best
really,
that he absolutely could for her.
and it often comes out that way, Dr. Natasha, because men only know how to serve you the way they know how.
Mm,
We have to kind of decide to teach them what we really need, and that's emotionally and physically. You know, women struggle with even teaching them how to be physically intimate with them,
mm, mm.
um, because we don't know how to speak up and say, yeah, I like this instead of that.
Yeah. And the thing that we're going to get into is one conversation that I see is constantly had is that when you tell a woman who's very high achieving, she is ambitious, that is built in her, to
Mhm.
tell her that she has a choice
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
say, this is what I would like, versus, well, I just feel like I have to do it, which is what, we covered in the beginning, like this idea that to somehow struggle through this is like a rite of passage for this life. And the Lord is like, actually, no, you just need to, once you understand what the need is, you're willing to touch the pain, you now can communicate from a place of,
Mhm.
actually, I would like this, but I would not like that.
Yeah.
This is something I'm very interested in, but I'm not actually interested in that. I know I do. It may come off as mean. Will I hurt their feelings? Will
Yeah.
they have an issue with what I'm saying? Am I doing too much? We do all this
We do all that
metacognitive.
in our head. Yes. Yes. Denying ourselves.
Mm,
Hmm. Denying ourselves space to be ourselves, because sometimes it's because we don't value ourselves. And for me personally, it's often about wanting to walk the road of peace.
come on, peace and harmony.
Ah, yeah, that's me, trying to find that balance, and then denying yourself, which is detrimental because eventually it's going to come back to destroy your peace, because you can't have peace when you're not fully who you are.
Which brings us into the conversations that we have been having this entire time. So, and we're gonna have to go back to that part. But if you have been with us through this series, you know exactly who we've been talking to. We've been talking to the woman everybody calls, the one the company defers to, the one the family routes around, the one who's been the answer in every single room she walks into for so long that nobody, including herself, has noticed she stopped being a person and became a function, something that she's just doing. Privately, she's tired in a way she cannot name. She
Mm.
went externally, which you and I both can relate to. She falls apart behind closed doors, and she's been told her whole life she should just be grateful. And I think that's what we fall into as well. And she doesn't know how to say, I am grateful and I am still empty without sounding like she's complaining. So if that's you, you are exactly who this particular episode is for today. So we walked through 4 episodes with Jackie here, and we encourage you to please go back through these episodes in no particular order, but we have clearly walked out a structure here, and that if you are willing to go into this structure, you may see even a breakthrough, a light bulb for your own self. So in episode 1, we named the operating system underneath her life, the family of origin, the abandonment, the rejection that has been running her without her permission since before she even had the words for it. In episode 2, we held up a mirror. We made her admit her achievements have been doing emotional work she has not been doing herself. In episode 3, Jackie gave her direction, the exact criteria for finding the right kind of help, because this is not some work you can just um, outsource to just anyone because you have a good vibe with them. The one question to ask any therapist or a coach: As Jackie told us, it needs to be clinically informed. And for high achieving women, there needs to be some executive piece to it, someone who understands the dynamic of the workplace, the dynamic of a team, which we all know ebbs and flows with even family. Family is a team, work is a team, community is a team. But what it actually means and why high achieving women specifically need that type of coaching. And then in our last conversation, Jackie took us all the way down with Leah. Give me 1 second. No, thank you. Yes. Okay. And in our last conversation, we experienced Jacquelyn. Okay. Jacquelyn, we went beyond Jackie because she really took us through there. When we talked about Leah, the cost of carrying it, touching the wound, the willingness question, the reckoning every high achieving woman comes to eventually. Am I going to do this work or am I going to die with the wound? So awareness, recognition, making a decision and direction, that's where we've taken her. So today we're going to dive into Hannah. This is the talk about, I think for both of us, this is something that none of us talk about. And it's even a part that was very enlightening for me because once a woman decides to do this work, once she said, yes, I'm willing, I'm going to touch this, there is one thing nobody warned her about. The people in her actual life are still there while she's doing it. So we're going to dive into Hannah. We're going to talk about her a little bit because there were many different people in her life that even in our own lives, we believe we should be turning to, and we should. But there is some consideration that we need to have as we go through that process. So the first question that I have for you, Jackie, is let's start with what most people will not say out loud. Was Elkanah a bad husband?
Was he a bad husband? Absolutely not. He was a tremendous husband to both of the women in his own way. Hannah in particular, because he was empathetic towards the fact the Lord had closed her womb.
Mm.
Right? He was so empathetic when he made offerings, he always bought Hannah back a double portion.
Mm.
Literally says he gave her double because that the Lord had shut her womb. But it wasn't necessarily what Hannah needed.
Mm.
So sometimes good men can provide good things, but it's not always what we need in the
Mm.
moment.
Mm. So going back to what I feel like has been a really beautiful through line up until this point, because I would really love to hear. I think I even just need a release from it, honestly, because when I hear you say that, if I have a good man and if he's providing, that's even if let's plug in a good job and the job is providing. Let's say we have good friends and they're plugging anybody with Elkanah. I should just be grateful. How dare I sit here and say, this is not enough for me. What I don't, that's where my mind goes, but would love your perspective on that need part.
So both things can exist at the same time. I can be extremely grateful because I am blessed to have a kind of Elkanah. I'm blessed to have him. He's doing a great job at what he's capable of doing, but I still have a missing need. The issue here is that needs must be met.
Hmm.
Now, who's going to meet the need is usually the issue there, but the need has to be met. We were created to be needy. We need one another. We need others in our lives, right? To provide some sense of affirmation, love, and help us build our character. So, although the husband was there and providing, she still had a great need. Both things can exist at the same time. And not to say that the other, the good part, is liking, but
Right.
you cannot deny yourself that you still have a need that is not being met.
Hmm. When you say we cannot deny ourselves,
Mhm.
for some reason, what's popping up in my mind is if we don't understand what the need is or how to get it met and stop denying ourselves, is resentment waiting for us?
Resentment is absolute. That is the core word. Couldn't think of it
Mm.
earlier, but yeah, resentment lies at the door. Kind of like scripture say, sin lies at the door. Resentment lies at the door because eventually we need something to blame. So that's how our brains function. We go to that emotion of it's someone's fault. Generally speaking, we blame ourselves as
Mm,
women. We say to ourselves, if I had have finished school, if I had have become what my mother said I should have become. We go back to family culture issues. We'll go to everything to try to pinpoint something that we don't understand because we don't exactly know what the need is.
mm,
But in this whole system of self-discovery, not self-fixing, we're
mm.
not looking to fix something. We're looking for something we need to become aware of. If we don't deal with that, we will find something to blame. And sometimes it is the husband who, or the partner, or the job system, whatever it is, that we feel it's not providing for that need, although we don't even know what the need is.
What the need is. Yeah. What for the woman who is she's looking to get into this work. She's
Right.
looking to do the self-discovery and not the self-fixing. That is powerful. She's looking to do self-discovery, not self-fixing. How does she, where does she start with understanding what the need is? Where does she start with even, not convincing herself it's something that is really not? Like I may say, my need is, my need is love, right?
Mhm.
Maybe I say that that's my need, but really it's not. It's something, maybe that's just the external way that I'm describing it, but under that for me personally, it's freedom. I have to be free. There has to be some flexibility in what it is that I'm doing. But if I stuck on love, what is the challenge there? And how do I go about knowing what that need is?
See, that's digging through the gems.
Hmm.
Digging through the gems gives you some surface information. And I love that you use the term love. So love is a gigantic term. It covers like insurmountable set of
Right.
things, rules and expectations, right? And so once you get that beautiful gem, that's good. It's just too broad.
Hmm.
We need to narrow down the picture at this point. Like, good, okay, I recognize that I need love. In what way do I need love? In what way do I feel love?
Hmm.
Do I feel loved and cared for when my job is in the position I want it to be in? If the company that I'm running, if it's going the way I want it to run, does that mean love for me? And if so, who's providing it? Is it the
Hmm.
workers, my employees that's providing that? Is it just the logistical truths that I found out that my business can run properly? What is that portion of love and where is it coming from? So
Hmm.
whatever big piece that we mine for and we discover in those gems, we need to take that big piece and put it on the table and say, this is so vital and important to me. And with Hannah, the big piece had nothing to do with the husband. It
Right.
was so disconnected from him that she could not connect to his thought pattern
Wow.
because she was focused on the fact that she had an inability.
Mm.
That
Tell
there's
us.
an
Tell us.
inability that has come before me, and it's the inability to have and produce children. And
Wow.
it's so interesting. The scripture tells her what her inability is. It says, the Lord shall have.
Wow.
So she has
Wow.
this information, right? And
Right.
it's not broad, it's narrow now.
Mm.
It's very narrow that even the husband is aware because he says it.
Mm.
And so once we start mining and we find the core of that, we need to discover how to go to the one who's capable of connecting that piece.
Wow. That this is where I think the roads diverge, right? It's either you consider yourself going to the source who we identify as Christ, or you consider yourself going to a source because we're going to desire that. And it could be another human being, it could be a thing, it could be, inanimate object, whatever that may be, job, team, whoever, as you were just saying. And I'm sure we have both of those women in this audience. What is the challenge that she's going to come up against by seeking this, getting narrow in these external pieces? Because we just have to be real about that. What does she have on the other side of that, trying to get that need met or finding out what it is externally?
So the greatest challenge what eventually happens is you become aware that that core need is really inside of you.
Mm,
There's something that you need that can only come from you.
wow. Wow.
But we skip that because we are sometimes so unaware of how much we give, and we're unaware of the fact that we're not replacing that,
Mm,
replenishing that, putting more back within ourselves, right? Because sometimes we're off a little bit. We believe that self-care is something that is not ordinary and should not be done in a way that it really should. Because without me caring and giving back to myself, I have nothing to offer anyone. Now, in this case, Hannah had really nothing to offer her husband because she hadn't done any care for herself.
right.
Like looked into herself and asked herself, what else do I have to offer outside of
Mhm.
having children?
Wow.
Do I not see my value and my importance? Do I not see my commitment in this earth to be whatever I believe is my purpose? If
Wow.
you don't go within yourself to discover that value and that peace, that although I don't have it, I can recognize something else within myself to
Hmm.
steady me
Hmm.
while I continue to go through the process of the thing that I may be inept in, that
Hmm.
I didn't have the ability to do. And for Hannah, it was to produce children. But was she just a person who needed to produce children?
Right.
I say she was not. Because
Right.
it shows you in the scripture that she was powerful. She was able to go before the Lord in a way that the priest thought that she was drinking. She
Hmm.
had really reached a pinnacle of relationship with the Lord.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
that wasn't recognized within her. She was just doing what she knew to do, but
Right.
not recognizing the value of her ability to connect with God.
Hmm. One thing that you just shared, even though she did not see that power in herself, somehow she was able to tap into it at her when she was able to touch the pain, when she was able to, you know, I know we're about to travel down here to Jerusalem, I believe is maybe where they travel. We're going to go on this long trek. She had a lot of time with her thoughts, had clearly a lot of time with herself, dealing with Penina, and we'll get to her in a minute, probably with Penina's children, who was probably, bad and running around, and they're trying to keep the whole caravan together as they're traveling. So I can imagine the fed upness that she had by the time she got to
Yeah.
that temple.
Mhm.
And just I don't care about decorum. I don't care about being polished. I am at my wits end. I'm at the bottom at this point. And then she was able to, it sounds like what you're saying, she was able to communicate from that place, even if it
Yes.
seemed it not on this earth, she was communicating, but clearly in an outer realm. But it was that willingness to actually, she was finally ready to touch and deal with the pain.
Mhm.
And she was able to come from a place of power that, like you said, even Eli himself was like, "Woman, how dare you come in the house of the Lord drunk?" And she's pleading with him, I'm not drunk. This is what's happening. She was able to finally communicate that. Is that expound on that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's absolutely what I'm saying. So, um, in her inability to see what the true issue was, though she knew it, she didn't know what that deeper, more important piece was. And that more important piece for her was generally her communication with the Lord,
Mm,
her actually taking the time to say, you know what, I've been talking to this man. I'm probably been going off on the Panina.
uh-huh.
I've probably, been aggravated with those children running around because they're not my children. She's dealt with everything. She's been upset. But then she finally gets to the point of the pain and say, God, it's so deep. It's so real for me. I need you to do something different in my life. When we are able to get down to the core, that gem, that piece we really discovered that is the biggest piece for us. When we're able and capable of doing that, the other miraculous things come out of our lives. We are able to touch more people when we get to the core of that thing that's been causing us so much pain. And when Hannah discovers this, and I'm sure the recognition came when the priest actually observed and thought, okay, I've not heard anybody pray kingdom prayer.
Mm,
So wait a
mm,
minute, what is really happening here?
right,
She's touching someone, right? She's
right.
making some changes. Maybe he recognized something about her. But not only that, then she's answered and given the very thing that she desired. The need eventually was met
Mm.
after she went to clear discovery and clear communication with the one she needed to communicate with.
Wow.
And
Wow.
that's what happens when we get down to the gem of what our pain is. We're able to communicate better. We're
Mm.
able to share with others who we truly are
Right.
and
Right.
what we have need for. And
Mm.
you can see that pattern in her life.
Right. Right.
We can say what it is, we can declare what it is, and it's not as painful because now I know what it is.
Hmm. Hmm. That brings me to what you were saying before, because I think it's important to call out when you understand what your needs are, you understand who you are. When you walk into a space, that space has to mold and conform if you're
Yes.
going to have the impact that you want to have.
Yes.
I can imagine, I can just picture her going on her way back home. That I guarantee that walk back home had to be different.
It was powerful, I'm sure.
It had to be different the way that she was talking, the way that the things that she was allowing to impact her, the probably the way she was even walking back. Did she even want to walk back? Did she ride the donkey different?
Exactly.
It changes, it shifts, and that's what you were bringing us into last time when you were like when you walk into a room. If I'm going to speak, if I'm going to teach, I need you off your cell phones. First warning. Second time, you speak from a place of authority, and it doesn't have to be rude, nasty,
Yeah.
some of these other pleas. It's just coming from who you are. So
Mhm.
that's a powerful piece. She doesn't have a full understanding of what her need is.
Definitely.
You talked about the journey that she needs to go on is self-discovery, not self-fixing, which I think is that's a whole episode in and of itself. But it's a self-discovery and not self-fixing that she needs to do to understand what that need is, to get to the source. And 9 times, 10 times out of 10, it's going to be found inside of her and not around her.
Yeah.
What else would you say to that woman who, she's been on the retreats,
Mhm.
Jackie? She's been to she's done the breathing exercise. She's done, was it EMDR? She's done all the things to really go inside.
Mhm.
What is it that she's missing?
She's missing identity. So,
Mm.
so identity is profound. Um, when you're mining for the gems to discover the pain, discover the core of who you are and what and who you need to be, who you're purposed to be. In that discovery, you find this beautiful identity. You become aware of who you are in the earth. Hannah became aware of something. One, I have the power to speak. I can speak up to
Mm.
get my need met. I have to speak. I have to use my voice and words to say, here is what I need, right? Once you get that voice, then you open up the channels of communication and understanding. You change your neural pathways because now you purposed. But
Mm.
it all comes with identity. Who am I?
Mm.
And what am I purposed to do here? We do it in our homes. When you decide your family, your children, your job, your whatever it is that you're doing needs to come under whatever you declare needs to come
Mm.
under,
Mm.
that woman challenges that homes and she causes it to fit exactly the purpose in her head. I watch the people who are on Instagram and TikTok who decided I'm gonna feed my kids this way. My kids will eat this type of food, and you see all the beautiful spaces they create for their children and for their
Mm.
spouses and their situation, and they own the piece because that's what they're called to do.
Wow.
That is their identity, and there is nothing wrong with that because now she has the confidence and the power and authority to walk therein.
Right.
Without becoming aware of your own identity, whatever that is, then you continue to walk in this peace that you have a missing need, and
Mm.
that need is being met because it doesn't come from someone else, it comes from within you.
Wow. Wow. Which leads to maybe there are people around her
Mm,
who
there we go.
are deciding for her maybe what that identity is, who might
Yeah,
have a little bit more power about what that identity is, who might
yeah,
be frustrating her while she's doing this work. And
yeah.
this takes us to Panina. What are your thoughts about that? And then we'll go into this second question.
So Panana, she played a role of antagonizer, and everyone needs that
Hmm.
because without that antagonizer, antagonizing piece that comes into our world from whatever way, it can be a spouse, it can be your own children.
Hmm.
Without an antagonizer, we will settle for what works. Well,
Okay.
it works.
Before we go, because to the listener, let's play, both sides here. I hear you say it's important for us to do the self-discovery, not the self-fixing work, to understand what that need is, and we find that need within us. And once we do it, beautiful things happen. Everyone around us benefits. But now I'm hearing you say, which, we talked about this before, Jackie, I don't like failure, okay? And I definitely don't want tension. I want this to be a smooth sailing process. But what I hear you saying right now, this second piece, we have to reconcile because you're saying I need an antagonizer. I need someone who is not going to always agree, not going to always accept and validate and affirm this beautiful journey that I'm going on. We have to reconcile that because that confuses me. Why do I need this antagonizer? I don't think I'll get complacent. I don't think I'll just
You will. Because when everything is settled and there's no dust to be cleared off, there is nothing to be changed in this beautiful fruit bowl of
mm,
bananas and oranges and apples. It is absolutely perfect. It actually shines. What
mm,
happens in the brain is we become bored with it.
mm,
And oftentimes when we're bored with something, it's not emotionally healthy to become bored
mm.
because we can eventually reach into boxes that are unhealthy for us.
Oh,
We'll start
wow.
relationships that are super unhealthy just because we're bored. With an antagonistic view, when you watch any play, you watch any movie, and there's no good movie without it. And someone who's antagonizing another person, right? There's
Right.
no good show without that because that person has to decide to get better, to
Wow.
do something different, and
Mm,
to see something from a different view. Three
wow.
things. You got to do something different. You need to grow and you've got to see things from a different viewpoint.
Wow.
Without that, we don't grow. We stay the same. Who wants to live like that where you never become fully who you are?
Wow.
If that fruit is never changed and you decide that I will tangerines, I want peaches now, I need a few grapes around there, that whole basic bowl
Right.
should
Right.
never be what we settle in.
Right.
You should never settle in a basic bowl because you have too much potential.
Hmm.
And so when I feel antagonized, pushed to my limit, uncomfortable, it forces me to find a different perch.
Wow.
I find something that it is not my norm. So
Mm,
I start out, so the people around us can push us into a particular view. So in high school, I had counselors who told me, "Oh, you're so good at math."
mm,
So I got accepted to the University of Florida, and they told me, "She's good at math. Let's do a major in finance."
hmm.
Okay, the people around me,
Right.
mom and dad, they didn't really know any better. Yeah, that sounds good because they did not know how to tell me who I was.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
We've grown, in these generations, and we've learned how to speak into our children's lives and say, hey, this is who you are. This
Right.
is who I believe you to be, right? My parents didn't know that. So, I ended up in this whole finance field. It was so far away from who I wanted to be because it didn't allow me to connect with people. It was
Right.
one purpose, one driven. It was that basic bowl of fruit that never had grapes in it. It was always going to be bananas, oranges, and apples.
Right.
There were no
Wow.
grapes. There was nothing colorful. There was nothing beautiful about this bowl. It was simple. It can take you where you're going, and you're going to make this basic amount of money.
Hmm.
Wasn't my plan. I knew that wasn't who I was, but at the same time, everybody around me saying, "This is
That's
perfect.
who you right.
You have a degree in finance and banking. What? difference does that make if it doesn't lead to my full purpose?
Mm.
Until I was fully adult and I went back for my master's that I discovered, oh my Lord, I've been helping people all my life.
Whole time. Wow.
Oldest child, as my mother's oldest confidant,
Right.
all these things, I find myself in this space, and then doors open as I go into this counseling field and I discover, wow,
Hmm.
powerful this is. Look at the things that I get to draw from. I change the whole perspective because now I'm from a different perch, looking into people's lives, going, that exists.
Hmm.
I hope and I can support it. So, but it was the people around me that continue to tell me this is who I am. At the same time, that was antagonizing because I'm saying to myself, no, this just cannot be true. This is not who I am.
Right.
This is not what I'm here to do.
Right.
So that pushed me to the place I need to be. And that pushes all of us because you will either decide to settle for it. Some people die in the
Mm.
basic bowl
Mm.
because they're willing to see a different perspective,
Hmm.
move from their thoughts.
What I'm excited about, what I'm hearing you say, is that there's a basic life, the basic bowl, but then there's this life of adventure and amazement and wonder, and like we only get one time here.
Whew,
And
yes.
so the question that I would have for the audience, and even, I'm saying it to myself, but asking them as well, is why settle for the basic when there's this whole world out here waiting for us to be who we need to be to transform it? When
So,
it sounds like what I'm also just feeling very excited about what you're saying also is I can be now very confident this space, this job, this family, it doesn't matter what I now touch. If I'm touching it from the place of who I am, it has to transform. And when
it
it
has to
transforms,
transform.
the people within those containers are also going to transform. And that's what it's about. You couldn't do that in finance. You made me think about, I for some reason, because I was very, people say I was argumentative. I would disagree. But you should be a lawyer. And okay, yes, I'm going to be a lawyer. That's what constantly, but when I have friends who are lawyers, ain't no way in the world I could ever be in that. But where I am now, to what you just said, I'm impacting people in a way that there is no other option that I'd want to do it except for this one. And it comes with, as you shared, the antagonist. So let's go back to Hannah with Panina, however we're saying her name. Every woman listening right now has someone like that, and you've already you've given us the word. I love the antagonist. And for the woman this series is for, the Panina is often not in the kitchen. She's in the boardroom. She's at church. She's at the grocery store. She's the one who maybe she got promoted ahead of her. Maybe she got the husband that, we thought we wanted. The woman in her industry who built the same thing she did. Maybe she's doing it a little bit louder, more visibility. What do you say to the woman who cannot leave the building? And the person provoking her is on the same leadership team. She's in the same, sitting on the same pew. She might be in the same family. I know you're saying we need those people in our lives, but how do we work through that process when we can't just X those people out. They're just a part of the story. What's our process for dealing with that antagonist?
Okay, so first of all, the reason antagonists exist is for you to grow. When
Mhm.
you grow and become, guess what? The people around you do also. You
Hmm.
may be in the boardroom, but you have a daughter at home that's giving you the hardest time in the world. She is everything you prayed for her not to be. And
Wow.
now you're struggling with the pain source, going, oh, Lord, is this me? Is it you're trying to discover how am I going to deal? I'm all of this over here in this boardroom, and I've got this little person in my home that is a total antagonist showing me that I'm not who I think I am,
Right. Right.
right? So the idea is okay, there's an area and a need for growth.
Mm,
And so as I grow, guess what's going to happen to that little antagonist in my home? She
mm,
will grow also because she'll see me do
mm,
the things I need to do to become better at this relationship.
mm.
As I become better at this relationship where I buy into, hey, maybe I don't need to have an argument with her. Maybe I need to see her for who she is.
Wow.
Let me go into her world, discover who is this little woman? Who is this soon to be mother or whatever?
Right.
Let me go into the world and discover so I can grow. The goal is if that antagonist is sitting on a pew or she's actually in the boardroom with you or he's in the boardroom with you, you need to grow to the point that you can actually be in relationship with whatever and whoever that is. I don't care who it is.
Whoa.
There is a need for growth so you can be in relationship in a way that you can still become the best you and add some grapes to that bowl and add
Wow.
different color fruit to that bowl. It's growth. It's always about growth and becoming.
Can you give me an example of someone, or just in general, a person who has an antagonist that close to them, a daughter, a husband, a sister, whoever that is, but someone that is very close and we can't just dox them out. You said y- you grow from that, but you also learn how to be in relationship with that person in a way.
Yeah.
Tell, what do you mean how to be in a relationship? Because I think what I'm seeing a lot of is people doing no contact. And it saddens me that even the therapy, psychologists, the entire mental health industry, that is like I mean, we're passing that around like Tic Tacs
Exactly.
to do no contact. And everyone has, well, I'm doing no contact with them. And they're calling it boundaries, which it really pains me. So this is the first I'm hearing of what you're saying, which is you learn how to be in relationship with that person. So there's another option here. Tell us about that option.
Yeah, you must learn how to be in relationship. And unless it's causing you physical harm.
Okay.
You be clear. If it's causing you any type of physical harm or emotional harm where you're not capable of managing any type of relationship and they have no give, that has to be understood and be acknowledged that that's not possible for you.
Okay. Hmm.
But in most scenarios, it is a possibility. We're just very unaware of where we need to grow, where
Hmm.
we need to become something different than who we are. And we struggle with that because we reach our pinnacles and we have these achievements, and I am who I'm supposed to be. Every day I find spaces that I need to grow in.
Wow.
Every
Wow.
day, there's little pieces. I hear someone's voice and they say a certain thing, and I'm triggered by it, or I don't like it. And I have to question myself, what was it? What was it that caused you to be triggered by it?
Right.
What is it that you're not feeling or you need to feel for that person? Why can't you apply empathy? We need to question ourselves. What's happening here? Let me ask myself first.
Hmm.
Become aware of something. If it's nothing, show me the way that I can become clear-eyed enough in order to connect with them in a way that gets us through whatever circumstance we're in until I can build my own character to a space that I'm not going to allow you to affect my bowl of fruit. I am growing. This is beautiful. And I cannot give you enough emotional energy to change that,
Right.
but I can give you enough to show you that I care and I'm concerned about you. You
Hmm.
spoke about love. So love goes two ways. Love needs to be received. We need it, but it
Right.
has to, it's reciprocated, but we have to give also
Hmm.
to the one who doesn't seem to deserve it the most.
Hmm.
That person who's aggravating and antagonizing you actually needs the same amount of love. And that's not a hug. That's not necessarily writing some beautiful letter to them.
Right.
That is accepting them for who they are.
Wow. Wow.
The struggle in most relationships is the inability to accept a spouse, a partner for who they are.
Hmm.
If this is truly how that person functions every day and does well, then there's a space in you that you have to be receptive to. Wow, this is who this person is. Either you can be receptive to it and decide that I can still love them through this space, or I cannot.
Wow.
But with your children, you don't have a choice, do you?
Right.
They push you to growth. They push you,
Right.
and your grandchildren, they push you to become aware of something about you that is truly not healthy and
Hmm.
that you need to change,
Hmm.
that you need to see from a different perspective and change your neural pathways to be able to work with any type of person. In
Right.
our culture today, our whole life system is broken because we're refusing to make any type of connection that's uncomfortable for us. Like, I'm not going into that world. I'm
Right.
just going no. Instead of
Right.
saying, okay, yes to the human being, no to the situation.
Hmm.
Yes to
Wow.
the person that's affecting me, but no to the circumstances around that person.
Wow.
I work with women every day who have family members and, sons and daughters who are in different lifestyles that they reject and say, no, I can't do that. That's not who I am. At the same time, my goal is to teach them how to still be in relationship.
Wow.
How do I continue to care for this person and not actually have to be a part of the circumstance around them, but they recognize my love for them is unchanging.
Right. Right. That what I when I hear you say that, that takes us back. And we're telling y'all, you need to go back through the other episodes because we talked about the emotional maturity.
Yes.
And what you just described, which you've done this class many times, emotionally healthy spirituality. I believe
Yeah.
you cannot be spiritually mature without first being emotionally healthy. And within that, of course, we have emotional maturity. And you talked about those different ages, the infant stage and the toddling and the adolescent, the teenage, and then on into adulthood. And when what you're saying is, in order for you to even be in relationship without being in the circumstances, wow, and love somebody, not as you shared, not it's not it doesn't have to be a beautifully written note and a hug and all these things that don't feel what we even want to do in the first place. If I'm true to who I am, if I know who I am, if I'm getting my needs met, I'm being willing to see this person for who they are. This is just who they are. Then I get to this level of I'm not being moved by whatever shenanigans they have going on.
That's the key. I'm
Hmm.
not moved by their circumstance, their situation, but I'm able to walk with them because the person is what matters and not those other things that I don't get to change or fix about that person. I don't get to change and fix someone else. It is not a thing that happens. That's not who we are. We're not creators, so we can't fix it.
Right.
But what we can do is mature enough, grow in our own space, change some perspectives about go to a different perch so you can see it from a different level, and then allow yourself to still be in that space
Hmm.
for the person's sake, not necessarily for the circumstance.
Wow.
And when you mature to that space, you can invite anybody in.
Anybody, literally. I'm hearing intentionality. What you are calling all of us to, these high achieving women who are very ambitious. We want to take on the world. We know it's in us to conquer something, but you're asking us to do it there is a way that we have been designed and purposed, as you have continued to say, to do it. And it cannot happen without us being intentional every single step of the way. This is not something we can just press a button, pull a lever, and it happens, which is what I think what a lot of the industry has turned into. It's been blanketed under self-help, and self-help is truly like, just do this worksheet, come to this class, think this way, do this meditation, and you will be. But no, you're saying this is a journey. And so it brings me back to Hannah and this antagonist she had. We would say she should have left that man. She should have just, she should have got her baby and laughed in her face. And we don't even see the rest of that story. We see her dedicated, traveling. Well, I would love to hear your perspective on her giving this thing that she had desired so much, giving that baby back to God. And
Another
then,
level of maturity.
mm,
Another level of maturity. Who takes something that they did not have, that they needed so badly, and said, I'm going to give it away?
who, please tell
The
us.
person who discovers that it was never about the thing. the person that discovers it was never about this thing. That's what happens to high achieving women. They get the
Wow.
thing. It's beautiful. I've achieved. I've become. I want to say three women's names.
Mm.
And this isn't political at all. It's just some people
Right.
that everyone has seen. Kamala Harris.
Mm.
We talked about
Clinton, Hillary.
Hillary Clinton.
Hmm.
And I don't remember the prime minister of Germany's name, for female prime minister there. She
Hmm.
was like amazing lady.
Hmm.
I think about these people, they had to be high achieving, right?
Right.
But they were always in spaces
Mm.
that there was so much coming against them. There had to be a level of growth and maturity to
Mm.
remain in those spaces, to
Wow, that's
become who they
real.
needed to be in those spaces so they could continue the job, but they achieved it. Now imagine you get to the pinnacle of what they achieved, right? And then you've got to give that thing away.
Wow. Wow.
There's nothing more powerful than the person who can take the thing that they say, this is what I needed, I had to get here. And then they're capable of saying, but I have to give this to you.
Wow.
Because especially the prime minister of Germany, because she had her term had ended, but they wanted her to go on. And she said, no, that's
Hmm.
been done.
Hmm.
I'm
Wow.
okay in my space now.
Wow. Wow.
I've been through what I've been through. I've done and achieved what I've done and achieved. But now I need to take this package and I've got to give it away because guess what? That's not totally who I am. I
Wow. Wow.
all three of those women understood their identity, and it
Right.
wasn't based on that achievement.
Right.
They were
Right.
powerful but before that achievement.
Hmm. Hmm. And we saw them publicly deal with many antagonists from literally on a
And
global level. On a
on a
global level.
global on a global level, we watch them deal with their own pain. If you go back and look at any of those women, the history of those women, it has nothing to do if you like them or dislike them.
Right.
The idea they were public figures, women, high achieving, that had to go through a process. And the two of them were married. Now I
Right.
want you to really think about that.
Yeah.
Being that high achieving
Right.
at home with a whole man.
Right.
That's
Right.
an interesting conversation.
We need so that conversation because the thought that just came to my mind was high achieving women with men who may not be as ambitious or as that is definitely like how do I think about that makes me think about Deborah. We touched on her a tiny bit, but I think we need to dive into Deborah
We have to
because we
look
forget
into
she was
Deborah.
married.
She's vital. Deborah is vital to have this conversation if we're talking about all women.
Hmm.
Deborah's super important. I mean, a general, female
Hmm.
over all generals.
Hmm.
Okay, that's
Hmm.
a good conversation.
We're gonna have that one. Okay, that part, and then we'll go to this last question. The part right there that is highlighted for me and maybe other women in the audience. I think sometimes we get to these peaks, these pinnacles, these mountaintops. And the reason why there's this deflation, and I say that because that's personal for me, the deflation is there because we were attaching what we do, what we say, who we are, everything about us to the peak, to the achievement, versus what you're saying is, Hannah, we see a level of maturity of she got that need met. She was given the thing that we see her say she wants the absolute most, and she willingly, her husband didn't ask her to do that. She didn't do it because this woman in the house, I'm scared she's gonna hurt my child. She did it because what I hear you saying is, okay, now it's time for me to give that away. That's not who I am.
Not
That is
totally.
not totally who I am. Yes. Yes.
That was just a piece of
Wow.
you. That was just a part of who she was, a part of showing, hey, I was able to communicate with the one who could give me what I needed and at the same time give it back.
Hmm.
So I could continue the process of whatever
Hmm.
I am
Hmm.
purposed to do. Because if you hold on to a thing, it will also hinder you from getting to where you need to go.
Right. Wow. Wow. Just wow. a different level of maturity. So we're definitely gonna have to tap into that as well. Okay,
Different level of maturity, yes.
let's get to the priest because
Okay.
in one of our last episodes, we talked about how to go and find someone to help you start the process of this work, someone to pretty much hold you to the fire so that you can do this work. You don't need someone passive. You don't need someone that's going to tell you what you need, but you talk to us about that. This figure of Eli in this story is interesting because he's the pastor figure, the mentor, the therapist, if you will. She's coming into his practice to get help, and then he sees her. And the way that he's processing what he has going on, if I'm a very fragile person, I might have taken that like, I'm just going to run away. Okay, I'm so sorry. Just forget I was here. I might run away because of his response to me. But tell me about when we do go to those people who we think we can trust, that pastor, that therapist, that coach, that executive, sponsor. What happens when we feel they're not getting it right? When we feel like they're not recognizing what's really going on with us, but we're trusting these sorts of figures in our lives.
Be okay of walking away from that. Because here's the circumstance. So what Eli did was immediately judge her.
Hmm.
He judged her. When you walk into a therapist's office, anything, you should immediately feel whether or not you're going to be safe or you're going to be judged.
Hmm.
In this picture, Hannah was immediately judged
Right.
on not correct. It was just absolutely the wrong thing to do. And only thing Eli needed was to take a little bit more time and sit there with her. He would have
Hmm.
eventually felt or come into clarity of what was happening. But sometimes therapists do not.
Hmm.
You give the worst therapist is the person that takes a little bit of information and decides that's what it is
Wow. Wow.
without hearing the whole story. Scripture tells us a man is a fool when he doesn't hear the whole story and judges. You
Hmm.
can't judge something off a handful of information. I need more. We've got to go and look at this situation from different circumstances. Then it'll help me get the aha. Here's a
Right.
possibility for my client. So when you get that judged, unsafe feeling, or someone's just so familiar that it's uncomfortable, you have to decide this isn't the person with me. Nothing wrong with that person. I say it to people all the time. You can always tell somebody there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. I cannot do well with you
Hmm.
because I either don't feel safe or I feel judged or unheard
Hmm.
or unheard. So the first thing you have to decide is when I discover this person, I have to be clear that this is a safe space for me,
Right.
that they can hear me and do hear me, and they're not judging the circumstances
Hmm.
behind it. My ultimate goal is to make sure a person does not feel judged.
Right. I know when I was in session with you, that was one part that I wasn't understanding at first. I would be sharing with you, this is making me mad and this over here is pissing me off and this is going on. And you said, so tell me about your dad. What does that have? Do you hear me? Do you hear what I'm frustrated about right now? Nope. You said, tell me about your dad. Tell me about your birth order. Like, where do you fall in all of this? Tell me about your upbringing. Where are you from? You, I didn't understand then. I know now, and especially what it is that you're saying. And from the first conversation, I felt safe. It wasn't one moment where I felt judged. And even as I'm hearing you say that, it's either or. It's either safe or judged. And there was have I tried other therapists, counselors, coaches? Absolutely. And immediately, if I feel you are judging what it is that I'm sharing with you, even though I know you're asking hard questions and you're trying to push me, but if judge is the gut feeling that I get, it's over. Thank you so much for your time. I'll send you, please send me the invoice and then we're going on. But that is a powerful barometer. There's no in between there. Either you feel safe because that's what it's going to take for you to do the work, or you feel judged And you might want to, not might, you need to consider, looking for someone else who's going to do that level of discovery you need to get you to where you need to go.
Absolutely. So our responsibility is to get you from where you are, even if I'm mad about this, I'm angry about that. So I have to move you to a space outside of what that was that you're experiencing emotionally. I hear you, and I'm sorry you're experiencing that. And let's talk about this piece that may bring you some clarity on why you feel that way. Right?
Mhm.
So as I keep moving you around, I should be creating more safeties for you to see that I'm interested in that. Let's find something to go with that, alongside that, so you can judge whether or not this is an issue I need to deal with, or this is a right now situation based on emotions. And there's nothing wrong with that. But
Right.
you have to decide that. And so if a therapist, if a counselor, whoever can help you move through those circumstances, that's always the person you want. But if someone stays in those, the scripture says, the little foxes spoil the vine. So we
Mm.
were in my master's program that you don't allow those little foxes to
Mm.
take over your entire session. And that's why I have to own the space that I'm speaking in. So I'm going to own this space, and I'm not going to let the little foxes spoil this vine, because I know there's a bigger place to get to.
Mm.
So you have to learn how to engineer that with people, that they feel safe, they feel heard. But at the same time, what we're not going to do is sit here with that, because I think there's something bigger.
Mm.
We need to come back to that, to connect
Mm.
it to something else. More than willing to do that. But right now, you just came from work and you're very aggravated. And
Mm.
I hear you. That's good. But we're here for this.
Wow.
And that's my responsibility. And that should be anyone's responsibility, to help you navigate those. Because if I let you sit in that, we could sit in that for hours. You ever sat with a good friend who's just going bonkers over, the boyfriend, the spouse, the husband, anybody, and you
Yes.
let them go in and
Yes.
let them go, and you could stay there for hours, and you do.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's called a good friend.
Mm.
That's not a coach. That is not a therapist.
Which that, interestingly, the thought that just came to my mind, Eli did get that right. When Hannah is sitting there and she's like, look, my Lord, I'm not drunk. And she was able to communicate, as you are
He did.
sharing with us, when she
He
was able to
did.
communicate her need, then he said, okay, go and have that.
There you go.
May the Lord go and give you that. He didn't leave her there. Well, okay, tell me, why is this happening? And tell me about this other sister wife you have. And what did you, he didn't, as you're saying, allow that little fox to kind of run
Right.
around. He's like, oh, I heard it. Immediately go in
He
peace.
heard it. He did. He immediately connected to it, but he judged it.
He judged it. That's so true. Yeah.
Judged it. And that's that first piece that you got to be aware of. Is this going to be healthy for me? And you come to find out later, if you continue to read the scriptures, that Eli had a lot of issues. And so he was not a good counselor at all. But
And maybe
you,
not a good daddy either, all the things.
he definitely was not a good father. So when that immediate feeling and that immediate interaction is very valid.
Yeah.
And you should hold on to that and recognize that. Again, you're not saying this is a bad person, or this person
Right.
isn't good for someone. You're just not good for me. And so the best way to find someone, to find that help, is usually word of mouth. The best therapist, the best coach, the best mentor is usually somebody says to you, hey, I talked to this person and this person helped me. When you can get that word of mouth, that
Mm.
just adds up to a lot.
Right.
Like, okay, this person is similar to me. They had a similar path and they were able to get help over here. Usually that's the person you need to connect with.
Mm. Mm. Okay. Talking about the connection, I need your perspective on this last piece. As we have talked about Hannah, we know that she got up after she prayed and her face was no longer like she wasn't sad anymore, especially when she heard Eli said that is what you're saying. Before her prayer was even answered, something shifted in the surrender, not in the outcome, which is what that different level of maturity that you're talking about. So, what does it look like for a woman to be settled before the situation is settled because you're asking us to go on a very intentional journey. You're showing us who we need to tap into to ensure that we have a space created for us or a container for us to even start the journey and the things that we can be looking for while we're on the journey to let us know you are absolutely on the right path. So, what does it look like for a woman to be settled in the situation as she's starting this journey? What does it look like for her to be settled before the situation itself is settled?
And so you're the person to answer that. So I'm going to ask you this important question. So when we begin to talk about your father, you didn't buy in at first. You didn't see the importance. It's nothing important about that for you because you didn't live there
Right.
and you wasn't with him. But when you settled into the idea of your pain was
Mm,
from rejection,
mm,
your pain was coming from a place of abandonment
mm.
and being clear to you, you got down to that gym. What was it like for you? That foundation principle of your pain, how did that affect you?
Well, number one, I was in denial for because again, as I've shared multiple times, I would not have resonate. Those words were just not a part of my life. I spent a lot of my life, I had to be the strong one. Not realizing what you helped me to see, that idea of strong that I had in my mind was actually calloused. I was very, very calloused. And as much as I thought that I'm being a great mom, I'm being a great wife, if they just would. I'm being a great leader, if everybody else would just get their stuff together, then all of this will go well. So I think what it looked like me to be settled before the situation was settled was not trying to, because for me, it was like it was time. No, this is not going to take years. You said this is going to take, a little bit of a, journey for you. It's going to take some time. And my mind, no, it can happen right now. You gave me a goal. You told me what needs to happen, what needs to fix. Let me go fix it right now. But that is just not how the human heart works. It's not how the human brain works. It was a lot of undoing that I didn't even realize I had to do. And once I understood, once you brought me to the point and I was willingly able to touch it, antagonists were everywhere. Growth opportunities were, I would not have called them growth opportunities at the time, but growth opportunities were everywhere. So how I interacted with my own family, that brought up that rejection and abandonment, back home. With my husband, abandonment every single time there was a point of tension, it was abandonment and rejection. And in those moments, I had to make a choice to walk out this idea of freedom before I even knew what freedom was.
Yeah.
Because I was being shackled just by being controlled by my emotions. I'm about to be abandoned and rejected. I need to hurry up and protect, and nothing's going to, I'm not gonna feel that, but not even realizing I was operating from that. So I know this is a drawn out way of saying it, but it was truly the moment where I just submitted myself under this is a moment of tension. I really don't like this. I'm feeling abandoned and rejected. And it was, my answer is no to this. My answer is yes to this. And when I started to do that and started to see people's irate reactions to me just standing firm, it was a little scary, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But it took years for the situation to be settled, but it was in those small moments and they didn't just stop, it kept coming. But then I started to see myself over time continue to get better. I don't, abandonment and rejection are not following me. It's grace and mercy following me now. And if I have to go back through that process to get here again, I would absolutely do that.
Yes, because what you did, you settled into the probability that this was an issue for you. Wasn't you
Mm,
didn't really receive it in the beginning. That's why it took a little time. You the
possibility. Wow.
possibility that this could actually be the core of my pain
Yeah.
and in those steps, as you continue to take a little bit, a piece of that at a time, and you begin to grow, because the more you were able to take in that this is possible, you
Mm,
would go another level. You
mm,
would change how
mm.
you responded to those antagonists.
Right.
You would decide, yeah, I don't have the emotional energy for that at this
Yeah.
time. I may come back to it, or I may choose not to deal with it at all.
Right.
And that's okay. And so every time you put on a little piece of becoming emotionally healthy for yourself, you are able to stand on your truth at that point.
Mm,
This is the source of my pain. I'm aware of it now, and now I'm going to take the journey to become better and not bitter.
mm.
Become better and not bitter. So as you made that decision, you were able to take the steps. If you refuse, reject, and begin to resent the fact that you discovered that gem, oh, wow, that's the source of pain, then you live out that pain for the rest of your life.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you continue to blame everything around you
Mm,
instead of becoming aware that that thing is on you and in you, but you can outgrow it.
mm, mm. That is a powerful end to this. And what I desire for the audience that's watching is Jackie is laying out the roadmap to self-discovery, as she has shared, not self what
Fix.
fixing, self-discovery, not self-fixing. She has laid out that roadmap because it's no better time than today. Yesterday would have been the best, but right now is the absolute best time for us to understand why we were put on this earth, what we are purpose for, to live out what we need to live so that we can have the impact that we need to have with this one life. There's no better time than today. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and let us know. But Jackie, as always, thank you so much. And I'm even now excited about our next conversation.
Yes, thank you.